HVAC products that you should not be buying. We're going to do a video today where I'm going to go through 5 things that you should be buying instead of the things that you usually do buy. So again, 5 things that you should not be buying versus what you should. I think a couple of these may surprise you, and also a couple of these might save you a ton of money if you stick around to the end. But let's dive into it. 5 things that you should not be buying and what you should be buying instead. Number 1, those expensive filters that you see in big box stores, hardware stores, things like that, the disposable ones that are a little more pricey, and they say they filter out all these things, and they kind of look like they're a little more packed in there, less airflow. The problem with those filters is less airflow, that they constrict the air too much. Some of them can double, if not triple, your static pressures, and that's a big deal. When you're looking at a lot of homes that already have undersized ductwork, now you're constricting the airflow even more. That system's starving for air, and you could actually end up having breakdowns because of the filters you're using. You're causing that system to work a whole lot harder than it should have to, because you've now installed this. In my mind, it's more expensive, but it's a cheaper option than some of these other options that are out there. And to save a couple dollars, you've now created an even bigger problem. You've cost yourself even more money. Instead, maybe you should look at some of these whole house home filter options. There's several of them out there. They're usually going to be a little thicker in size. The unit itself is going to, instead of being only 1 inch, the filter, it's going to be more like a 4, 5, 6 inch filter. A lot of them, the way they do it is they'll actually have pleats in there that if you were to cut the ends off the filter and stretch it out, you have all this more surface area. That's how they keep the static pressures down with a lot of them. Maybe consider that, or instead of putting a filter in line with your ductwork and affecting the static pressures at all, maybe you should look at some of the other options where it's more of a bypass filter system. And then you can do things like HEPA filtration, which is the top dog. Talk to your local pro about one of these media filters. There's other options out there. There's electronic air filters and other types of systems like that. Problem with a lot of those systems is people don't maintain them the way they should, and they have this false sense of having cleaner air when in reality they don't, because the system's just not being maintained the way it should be. So I would just encourage you to get a few opinions, talk to a couple local pros, and see what your options are. Number 2, there are a lot of cheap UV lights on the market, and a lot of them are great, right? I mean, even just a simple UV bulb shining on your evaporator coil is better than nothing, in my opinion. I've seen some evaporator coils that were just mucky, full of this I don't know if it's mold or just black gunk, all this stuff. And you put a UV light on there, and within a month or two, we go back to do a maintenance, and the evaporator coil looks so much nicer. It looks like a shiny nickel all of a sudden. But instead of buying one of those cheap UV lights, maybe consider some of the air cleaners we see on the market that not only do they have UV technology, they have the ultraviolet light in there, they also use other technologies to help clean that air as well. And I've seen all kinds of different products on the market. Again, I would refer you to your local pro, see what they offer, see what their opinions are. Sometimes for not that much more money, you're going to get the UV light technology, but you're going to get so much more than that. You might get a system that can ionize the air, or a system that can simply clean the air as it goes through there. It can trap the air in a way so that UV light can do an even better job. Some of them have carbon filtration and different things like that. So I would just encourage you, instead of just going with that cheap option, see what other options are out there. As we've moved towards an age where people are more educated on power problems, we have surge protection and things like that for our electronics in our home. And I would encourage you that instead of just going with just simple surge protection for your HVAC system, which by the way, I think is a great thing, but I would also encourage you to maybe look at some even better options as well. Not just surge protection, because I think that's great, but also maybe something like a phase monitor, something that's going to help inhibit brownouts and other problems that electrical current can cause for your HVAC system. And I'm not going to get into in this video talking about all the different things that each do, but ultimately, I think if there were a good, better, best type scenario, I think some sort of surge protection these days is definitely a good thing. It's a good option. It's a bare minimum option. And I truly believe that every HVAC system should have some sort of surge protection on it. But that better option, or in addition to, maybe look at some phase monitoring. Again, I would refer to your local pros. Maybe you have complete whole home surge protection, and that plays a role in all of this as well. Number 4, indoor air quality products. There's a whole bunch of them out there. Some of them clean the air, some of them filter the air, some of them humidify, dehumidify, all these different things. And all those things are great. I definitely think that you should look into them, especially if you have folks in your home that have allergies or other breathing respiratory issues. There are all kinds of options out there that can help with that. But instead of looking at some of the indoor air quality products, or maybe it's better to say, instead of only looking at those options, another option you can look at is ventilation, bringing fresh air into that home. One thing I hear all the time before you say it, folks will say, well, Josh, the problems that I have is with the outdoor air. I'm not saying just dump a bunch of air into your house from outside. There are things you're going to want to do to that air. Ventilation can filter that air and it can dehumidify, and as long as you do all those things properly. But what a lot of folks don't realize is some of the problems they're having with the air in their home is because they're constantly breathing recycled air, VOCs, and some of the things that are inside the home. You're doing your best to try to clean that stuff, but you're not bringing fresh air into the home. You're not actually diluting that air with good air. So does that mean I think that IAQ products, indoor air quality products, are bad? No way. In fact, we sell them at our company all the time. However, the thing that I would caution you against is only doing that, only putting a UV light in, or only putting a better filter in. Consider putting some fresh air into that home. We have actually had customers of ours that we added ventilation to their home, and the customer say within a day or two, they actually felt better. For the first time in a long time, they actually were feeling better. And then finally, number 5 is, instead of buying cheap HVAC equipment products, you're about to invest into a new system for your home, you go with the cheapest option you can find. I would encourage you to consider some of the higher end products, get multiple opinions. If you're dealing with a company that won't even offer some of these higher end products for one reason or another, some guys they'll even see this video and they'll give you the reasons why you shouldn't buy some of these higher end systems. And I think some of their points might be valid, but I think sometimes they're just blowing smoke because they don't want to learn the new technology, which, by the way, you better get with it, because I would say in the next decade or two, that's all we're going to have. But I digress. Getting back to you folks that are homeowners and consumers, I would just encourage you to get other opinions out there. Consider that company that's offering the cutting edge technology, offering the higher end systems. Ask them what their experiences are. Maybe even ask them for references. Sometimes a little bit of an extra investment up front can pay off big time in the end. I've had customers that had mobile home electric furnaces, and just switching them to a heat pump instead of a straight AC outside, they saw a significant savings on their electric bill. And we're not talking $20, we're talking hundreds of dollars by just switching to a heat pump system, because they're not running off of those heat strips on mild days. And so I will piggyback off of that and give you a bonus one. I think I told you that I would give you 5, and here's a bonus one for you. A 6th one thing that you should not be buying is, maybe in addition to that, as you're looking at systems and you're getting different opinions, there's companies coming out with what I would call non-communicating inverter systems. Yes, they're still inverter. Yes, they can still ramp up and down, but because of the technology itself, because it's not communicating, it's not as efficient, it's not as good, it doesn't dehumidify as well, it doesn't do a lot of the things that these communicating systems can do when it comes to errors and all the other different performance issues and so on. A lot of these companies making these non-communicating inverter systems want to pretend that they're just as good. And I think they do have a place in our industry. I'm not saying they don't. I certainly think they're probably a step up from, say, a single stage heating and air system, a single stage condenser, whether it be heat pump or AC. They have their place, but let's not pretend that they're just as good as a communicating inverter systems. Regardless of the SEER rating, they're just not quite there when it comes to the technology that we're seeing from some of these companies that offer communicating inverter systems. I know at my company, for the longest time, it was very important to us before we just jumped on a bandwagon. We tried multiple different products. For us, we ended up with Daikin. That's the company that we sell at our company. Daikin has sponsored some of the content on our videos, so I want to be upfront about that. But for me, when I was selling equipment and I was trying all these different products, it was important to me to consider that. Consider who's good, who's not, who's been doing this a while, if you know what I'm saying. I would just encourage you to look at some of my videos on the Daikin Fit, because not only is it communicating inverter, but it's also a little more budget friendly than some of the other options out there. Some of the things that it can do for what it is, it's this smaller, more compact unit, but still has that communicating inverter technology that some of these really high-end systems have. And because of that, it's super quiet and efficient and all that good stuff. So anyway, regardless of what you end up going with, just consider that. I hope this helps. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. Did I go over a product that you were considering buying and now maybe things are changing? Yeah, I'd love to hear about that. But if you like this video, I think you'll like this one even more. It's where I go over 4 fixes for leaky ductwork, which is one of the biggest energy wasters in your home. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time.